Yeah.
My bando make a wish. My bando raps 36. My bando bought me that. My bando bought me this. My bando to jumping jacks. So my niggas just relax. Got some flow that take the three. Gon' put this bando on a map. My bando make a wish. My bando raps 36. My bando make a wish. My bando raps 36. My bando make a wish. My bando raps 36. My bando bought me that. My bando bought me that. 217, we ain't close no hoes in here. Just open here. No pop, no pills, no drink, no weed, but you can smoke some drone here. Choppers keep my niggas safe for safety. He gon' take the case from the jungle with a rascal in the belly of the snake. Can't protect your wolf, so you gon' end up dead. I might get wrong. On the DA, Rico niggas like the mama, baby.
What up, though? OG Kenny, O_G_Kenny. Back with Retired from the Streets TV and another installment of Let's Not Forget Friday. I love y'all, man. It's been a long week. I appreciate y'all for staying tapped in with me, man. Listen, I just told my homegirl Deborah the other day, I said, we need to holler. Let's just holler. You know, let's step outside the laundromat. She's like, for real? I'm like, come on, let's do it. And she told me, I'm going to feel. I'm like, no, we could just go inside the building and holler. And yeah, you got to just holler sometime just to get it out and kind of feel alive again. But this story here, man, I'm taking y'all to make you want to holler, for real, for real. We're going back almost a decade, for real, to the early 2000s, Lansing, Michigan, Ingham County. And we're talking about a brother who was born in 1979. So for me, he a younger dude than me, 3 years younger than me, right? Grew up very problematic in a household where his father, he witnessed his father not only physically assault his mother on several occasions, his father also would sexually and physically assault him and his sister, reportedly, right? And they did say that by the time he was 4 years old, his his mother had already kind of pressed charges and whatnot against his father because they had removed, the CPS had removed his sister from the house for a minute. You know what I'm saying? For sexual assault allegations, and she filed suit and put a restraining order against him, his father, when he was 5 years old. The father in this case is James Macon Sr., and the individual we're talking about is Matthew Macon. He's one of the most unknown serial killers in the United States, and he's right here up under my nose, about an hour away, somewhere where I frequent. I go to Lansing, not all the time, but I hit that boy a few times a year to go up there and kind of, mingle with my brothers and whatnot, and vibe with my dude Finkelwork and my dude Baby Sosa, Eric Rutledge. So, it's another stomping ground for me, a place that people welcome me to. So, now, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna take you into. It's a lot going on with this man, so I'm gonna take you into a brief story without giving y'all a whole mini documentary on him, because it would take me to do a mini doc to get all this stuff out. So I'm gonna compile it and comprise it for you real briefly. Now, 60-year-old Carol Cronenberg, a U of M professor, was found raped and bludgeoned to death in her classroom. Now the reports also say that when this young man, who was a homeless student at the time at Lansing Community College, goes by the name of Claude McCullum, he arrived on campus. He found police cars everywhere, and then they sought him as a suspect with no evidence, really. They took this young dude 2 days after this lady was killed, arrested him, and convicted him a year later of her murder. Without much evidence, sentenced him to a heavy time in prison behind that, right? Now, to speed that story up a little bit, right? Rest in peace to Carol Cronenberg and condolences to her family. But what I want to do is focus on the fact that she wasn't the first one that was killed. It was also a 45-year-old Deborah Tuttle who was also murdered. The thing that's significant about these two women is that both of them were found in their places of residence. Both of them were older, 45 and old, but it's older women in their mid to late years of life were found in places, not that they lived at, but places that they were comfortable at. And 45-year-old Deborah Tuttle, they found her beaten to death in her apartment, and she had been sodomized, right? So you see a pattern going on, right? Older women being assaulted sexually and left for dead or left dead, right? So when they convicted Claude McCullum of this murder, you got to understand the city of Lansing was in an uproar. They were trying to figure out this older woman was found beaten to death in her classroom on a prominent campus in the capital city of the state of Michigan. Everybody's on an uproar. So when Claude McCullum was convicted, everybody kind of said, "Woosah." We kind of we feel vindicated now. They've arrested and convicted somebody. People can go back to a sense of normalcy without being in fear of their life. Now, what the city of Lansing did not know was that 2 years later, right? Not even, about 2 years later, a year and a half into Claude McCullum's prison bid, another woman, well, women period, were being found assaulted, right? There were random women that were being found assaulted and raped and whatnot in the same manner as Barbara Tuttle and as Carol Cronenberg. Now we're going to 76-year-old Ruth Hallman. The sad thing about Ruth Hallman's situation is that her daughter was arriving on the scene as EMS were placing her into the emergency vehicle. And her daughter noticed that she had on a blouse that she never seen her mother have. It was like a rusty brown color. She said, "My mother don't have no blouse that color." I know. She's 76 years old. I go through her clothes. Probably help her with her clothes, right? Help her get dressed sometimes. What she found out later, though, is that it wasn't a blouse that she had never seen before. It just had been discolored with Ruth Hallman's dried blood. All right. What they're saying is that Ruth Hallman allowed Matthew Macon into her home under the pretenses of him doing some work for her. He'd knock on the door. "Hey, can I do some yard work for you? Can I make a few dollars? Can I do something around here where I can make something? I know you might need help. You're an older woman. You live by yourself. It look like, oh yeah, come on in. Yeah, maybe we'll." So as she's making her way through her kitchen, her guard is down. She's an older woman. She's comfortable in her space. She turns her back. He goes into a drawer, sees a hammer, grabs her, holds her head down, whack her, hit her so hard that he leaves a hole in her head, right? So the reports was that she had cut herself while she was mowing the lawn on her lawnmower, fell and hit her head. So when detectives started to search her place and look around, they noticed too many similarities. Similarities leaning back towards Carol Cronenberg's death, right? Now, they already figure like they got their man, right? So they're not really looking into it too much, but they see the similarities exist, right? So detectives end up getting a tip that 5 local drug dealers, right? Some young dudes who was getting money, or maybe not even so young, but there was dudes who was in the area that was getting money, selling dope. And they said them dudes might have had something to do with this random woman getting. It don't make sense to me because it's very rare that you find a dude who getting money selling dope who out here is just running up on 70, 80-year-old women, especially not to be funny, white women, because you already know when you from a hood, you better not put your hands on a white woman, right? That's why you think. So who out there really getting money, trapping or whatever, thinking about assaulting some damn 80-year-old woman? Sexually assaulting her and beating her to death. Who doing that, right? So detectives pull in 4 of the dudes. They had warrants. They had arrest warrants for these dudes already because of the fact that they knew about their drug activity. So they figured this is the prime opportunity to get some answers behind these deaths that's coming up, right? Potentially, and to also bring these dudes on some drug charges, right? So they execute search warrants. They run up on 4 of the dudes, right? They end up running up on the 5th one later. However, that was a dead end. They talked to the dudes and they found out these dudes ain't got nothing to do with that. Through their experience and their expertise, these dudes ain't the dudes we're looking for. You know what I mean? So they had to, whatever them drug charges was, whatever, that don't have nothing to do with this case. So we don't know how that led, where that led to. But when it came to this, they let them go, right? Now, a few days after Ruth Hallman's funeral, police found 36-year-old Deborah Cook. Now, the thing about Deborah Cook case, which is crazy, is that Matthew Macon, met her at a gas station under the pretenses of paying her for sex. Now, I guess she wanted a little too much for him. She was a little too much. She wasn't going for the 40 ball, right? Man, he was like, okay, I'm straight. So he leave. This is prime. Maybe, she was too young for him or whatever, but this is a prime opportunity for him to do what he do. He leave. She follow him. She pursue him. An hour later, they find her beaten to death and sexually assaulted, half-dressed, leaning up against a tree with a stick stuffed in her vagina. So basically, rest in peace to Deborah Cook, but she basically sought out her own death, her own demise, which is sad, right? The thing about it though, she was such a younger woman compared to the other ones that police didn't make the connection at first, right? Then a few days later, 46-year-old Deborah Winters reported to police that she had been sexually assaulted. They didn't take it serious. Go figure. With all this stuff going on around, with all these women coming up sexually assaulted and bludgeoned to death and found left for dead, they don't take this serious. So a week later, guess what? They find her dead. Beaten to death and raped. The thing about it was the location she was found in is what tipped off detectives that they might have a serial rapist, a serial killer on the loose. So they start doing the investigation. They start going back. Hold on, let's look back for a minute. Let's look back because all these similarities in all these women over these last year or two or whatever, it's too much going on. So let's go back to some older cases that are unsolved, but that pertain to women, especially older women that are being sexually assaulted or whatnot, and see what comes up. Lo and behold, they find a string of different stories and cases where women who were older, lived alone, were sexually assaulted on the west side of Lansing, right? So they start going into this big old investigation now. And another similarity in those cases were that they were women who were approached at their home and were asked, can they do they want some yard work or some random work around the house done for money? It's a pattern, right? Black dude, knock on the door. Hey, can I do some yard work? Can I do some work around the house? Can I get some money? Right? Sexually assault the women. Just so happened these women were beaten to death or killed. Now, so what they do was, right? They don't hear nothing for a few weeks, right? They still doing their investigation. They still looking around, right? What happened is, in the course of all that going on, 64-year-old Sandra Eichhorn, 64-year-old Sandra Eichhorn was found, raped, and stabbed to death in her home. Now, she was a local, She was a retired GM worker. She loved to play Keno at the local bar called Harry's, and she had just moved. So her place of residence was right by Harry's. So that was a place she frequented, right? They found this woman stabbed to death over 36 times to be exact, in her place of living. Somewhere she should have been safe and comfortable. Now, what ended up happening was, the police ended up, detectives were watching her home, a week after her death, and they end up seeing an individual who looked like a black man in his 50s, mid-50s, watching her house, staring at her house. He ended up just started laughing out loud to himself. You looking around, a normal individual, see somebody laughing, staring at the house, especially a detective, of someone who was just stabbed to death almost 40 times. You thinking, who the heck is this individual and why is this so funny, right? They do their research, guess who it is? Matthew Macon's father, James Macon Sr. The same one who was sexually assaulting his children with broomsticks. The same one who beat his 17-year-old pregnant girlfriend because she wouldn't prostitute for him not even a year after his wife had put a restraining order on her for beating her so bad that she had to be hospitalized, right? So when they did the math, they immediately did a manhunt for Matthew Macon. I'm going to tell you why. They started looking for him because a week before that, he went to a computer repair shop trying to get these computers, probably more than likely some stolen merchandise, right? Some stolen stuff. And he went in there and said, hey, I got a password on him. So a friend gave me this and they got a password on it. He forgot the password. Can you get him off? But he was acting suspicious. So the computer clerk, the computer store clerk figured this out. Like, man, something wrong with this dude. He weird. What's your name, bro? Okay, well, what's your address, your phone number? So he ended up giving him his name. My name, Matthew Macon. I live here. This is my phone number, right? So that's one piece of red tape or some evidence that he left, some breadcrumbs, right? So when they get a tip from this computer clerk that this dude came in and he had some merch that looked stolen and whatnot, and You know how it is. They've been finding this stuff missing, maybe missing from these people's houses and whatnot. It's all speculation, but they find stuff missing. They start looking at pawn shops. The pawn shop clerk said, hey, there's a dude in here named Matthew Macon that was whoop this not too long ago. They look him up, find out that he was on parole, right, for a 2000 break-in and whatnot, and he was a registered sex offender, and he was on parole at the time. So they started researching him and trying to find him. So guess what happened, right? While they was on this manhunt looking for this dude, he ended up at the back door of one Linda Jackson, right? Now, he do the same thing. Hey, can I do some work for some money? And she was a little scared because she had been hearing about this stuff. She know, her father's a minister. She's well aware of the news. So she's like, he probably giving her some insight. Hey, baby, protect yourself. Watch the news. She been watching it. She know what's going on. She know about all these women that's been being assaulted and whatnot. She let her guard down. Let him come to the back door. But he was acting weird. A couple of times he looked up the street, checking stuff out. So she said, well, I don't got no work right now. And I don't have any money in the house right now because I don't keep money in the house. But what I do is I usually go to the ATM to get money. I would have to go to the store. She said that was her thing she would say because this wasn't her first time, paying for our jobs. You know what I mean? So what she would do is like, hey, I'm going to go ahead and pay these people, but I'm going to act like I don't have the money right now so they won't think I got money in the house and get at me. What happened was what went wrong and why they got on his tail the way they did was because he used the business card from the computer store as the way to get into her house. Or he dropped it. Either way, the car he left, and he said his name was, she asked, what's your name, bro? I'll write your name down and refer you to some people. He said, my name's Chili Smith, right? So that business card with his prints on it, this name Chili Smith, they run through the system. Lo and behold, guess what happened? Matthew Macon, on record, is known by the street name Chili. Stupid, right? Stupid. He grabbed this woman though. He was trying to grab Linda Jackson. He grabbed her and tried to pull on her and whatnot when she went for the business card. And she fought. She screamed. She hollered. Her dog sleep upstairs at the time, right? And that's what she told him. I can't let you in because my dog might not like you. And my dog funny style. I think the dog name was Chelsea or whatever. The dog run downstairs, got to snapping and barking. He gets scared, spooked, runs off. And this is how they would find out and recognize, okay, this is who we're looking for. Matthew Macon, where you at? Get his description out. APB. While they was doing that, they randomly looking around. They get a call. Somebody matches this dude's description. They go down to a square. They find him. The dude that looked like this Matthew Macon dude. They jump out, get on his head. That's him. They get him in custody. He, the evidence was speaking for itself too, and then he ended up confessing to all these different murders. They end up with 2 life sentences. He confessed to all these murders in such great detail that he ended up exonerating Claude McCullum, who later ended up suing and winning $2 million lawsuit for wrongful imprisonment. Now, what's crazy about this story to me is I knew about Alton Coleman, and I knew about people like Deborah Brown and their story, right? And I started, like, maybe a year, even before I started doing this, started researching black serial killers. I'm like, it gotta be some black serial killers out here, right? And I started finding all these black serial killers. But I never even, you hear the sirens out there, the city on fire tonight, but I never once heard of this dude, Matthew Macon. He's maybe an hour from me. And this happened, and he got convicted and sentenced in 2008. So this stuff wasn't that long ago. This wasn't even 2 decades ago. And he's younger than me. Doing 2 life sentences right now, though, for these murders and whatnot. It just goes to show you that, man, you never know who you're going to run across when you're doing, like, when you're trying to be nice to people. And the reason I really understand that is because I deal with people who are drug addicted, alcoholics, right? They need odd jobs. They want to come in the laundromat, sweep, take out the trash, come around here, cut my grass. I had a dude the other day. He just came home after almost 2 decades in prison. He can't really relate to a lot of people but me because he know I got that history of incarceration. He back out here smoking crack. But I got a rental property I was just showing y'all, and I had him up there cleaning the attic. I said, bro, you running around all day. You're killing yourself. Come over here. Let's politic. Let's talk about some of this good old literature that we knew we we built off of in the penitentiary all these years that kept us sane, kept us foundated, right? And let's go ahead and relax for the day and you just chill, get some honest money. I'm gonna pay you. I'm gonna pay you decent money. It's for some stuff I can do myself for real, for real. However, I'm never short-sighted, and we had a good conversation. I'm never short-sighted though about his affliction and about what drives him, and that addiction does. Prime example, I find the gold bracelet in there. I was gonna let him just do his thing, head back to the laundromat, finish helping the dudes with the contract linen. So check what happened. When I turned my back for a minute, because I find this little bracelet in there, and I find some business cards. I mean, it's not business card, playing cards. He said these might be worth something. So I said, you know what? Let me stay, organize all the stuff in here that might be of value, put them in a couple of bags on top of this antique sewing machine we found up there, and a couple of paintings, and let him do his thing after that. When I take him back to the laundromat to help us work after that, I'm looking for the bracelet. The bracelet came up missing. The bracelet came up missing. Now, it's only me and him. I ain't steal the bracelet. I ain't steal the bracelet. I'm gonna steal from something I found and something that I rightfully own. That don't make sense, right? So, and then he called me this morning like, hey, bro, whoopty whoop, I want to, is we doing something today? I'm going to call you about 1 o'clock when I get off this other job. Never got the call. So, to me, looking back, that call might have been him just filling me out. Seeing where my headspace was at. I was going to be like, bro, you took this, where that's at? I ain't do that. Nice bracelet. Some, herringbone with a couple of diamonds in it and whatnot. And it was real gold. I wanted to see what it's worth. I was going to give it to my daughter or something, right? Because it was a smaller bracelet. My point is, we let our guards down often. We let people that we want to help. We want to be do-gooders. We want to save the world. We got this complex of Mother Teresa in us and Gandhi and everybody else and MLK. Rest in peace to all of them. And I love the movements they represented, right? But we have to watch who we dealing with and understand that their motivation for being here, it's monetary. It's about money. Most of them not trying to elevate to the next level, it's sad to say. These women, well, I can't say all of them, but a lot of them, based on his MO of getting into their homes by saying, hey, can I help? Can I do some stuff? In the post-2000s, like, your guard was really down. And you have to watch, especially women. Y'all live alone. Most of these women live alone. Older women. Y'all got to watch, or source out. Go to the local church and ask them before you just let somebody in your spot or around your house. Because even if they're not in your place, they're walking around and they're always around. They're peeking in the windows and seeing you doing your thing. You never know what kind of patterns they pick up and whatnot. And I'm saying this out of love and concern because I talk to my sisters. I talk to my female best friend and my best friends, all my female friends, period, the women in my life, and the dudes about protocol and about security because I move militant. I don't ride with a bunch of people. When I pull up at night, I watch everything before I get out the car. I play the mirrors all the time because I'm used to all that. I move real militant and military when I'm moving. And I don't wear no bunch of jewelry, none of that. You understand what I'm saying? I'm going to cover that in another episode, probably tomorrow. I'm going to talk about why y'all don't see me out in the streets with these J's on. It ain't just that. It's something else. So, man, I appreciate y'all for tapping in for another Let's Not Forget Friday. Remember, keep yourself safe, man. Keep yourself safe. It's about to get cold out here. It's getting time. Well, up here where I'm at anyway. But it's for sure getting holiday season. And where I'm from, when it get cold, it get close to Christmas. People under pressure for gifts and all that. They start doing reckless stuff. Watch yourselves, guard your homes. If y'all haven't subscribed, do so. If y'all haven't hit that like, that notification, that smash, all that. Get in the comment section, share the video, Until next time, man, OG Kenny, O_G_Kenny, advertise from the streets TV. Keep the change. Keep them nervous. This is God's promise. It's more than his plan. I love y'all. Y'all be safe. And until next time, I'm out.